My name is Miriam, and I am the voice of Stockton.
This broadcast will start in 60 seconds. This broadcast will start in 45 seconds. This broadcast will start in 30 seconds. This broadcast will start in 15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS The Voice of Stockton or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Hi everyone, this is Cliff Deba
And I'm Ben Sanchez, and you are listening to Challenge Mode.
on KXVS, the voice of Stockton.
Welcome to Challenge Mode on KXVS The Voice of Stockton. Here's the one and only, my good friend, Ben Sanchez.
Hey, Dustin, how have you been?
I'm doing great. I see you every week, so what's new?
I know, it's always a busy week with us, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get into that Friday, because we got another show Friday, right?
Yes, we do have it on Friday.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were done talking to me, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Back to you, though.
No, thanks. Yeah, no, everything's great. For the viewers that are just tuning in, this is Challenge Mode. This is the Entrepreneur Show on KXVS. Our whole goal is to bring entrepreneurs on the show and have them tell their story and learn about their passions, their dreams, and kind of the ups and downs of what it takes to be an entrepreneur and start a brand or a business. Today we have a really incredible guest with us that I saw a message. Here's what happened. I saw a Facebook message that comes through the station and nobody responded. And I responded back and we exchanged numbers, and I talked to Justin, and we set this up with Dylan here. And so Dylan, welcome to the show. This is Challenge Mode.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and I talked to your dad, and it just kind of took off from there. And I had no idea who you were and what you'd really been doing. So let's kind of talk a little bit about. You're local, and you're doing a lot of great things, and I want to let everybody know what those great things are. So, but you didn't find out. I kind of read a little bit of your bio, and he shared some things with me, and I read that you were 7 when you started performing.
Yeah.
When you started singing.
Yeah, I was. I've always had an interest in music. My family, I don't have a lot of musicians in my family, but everybody in my family loves music.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to play guitar at 5, and I started lessons at 6, and I had my first performance at 7, and I was terrified.
Yeah.
My family had to force me onto stage. Like, I was like, no, like, I changed my mind. I don't want to do this.
Right.
And they were like, no, you're here now. You have to do it.
Yeah.
And after I did it, I loved it. I love being on stage, talking to people, singing. It's 100%, my favorite thing to do. So
yeah. And then I also read that you, like, not even that long after, you were in the studio at 11, right? Mm-hmm. So how describe how that experience is, just like going from performing right into the studio, not even a few years later.
It was super overwhelming, like super. it was crazy. It was insane. And I, got the chance to work with some really amazing people. I wrote with Josiah Rosen. He's in the band Augustana, wrote some songs for them. And, and these people, they're super supportive and, like always putting the best foot forward. Everything, was super smooth. But, being 11 and, not having done this stuff before, not understanding, and then just going like, here, you wrote this song, we wrote this song, now go into the booth and sing it while we all stand out here and watch you.
Right, yeah.
That part, oh my gosh. Like, I still, even still to this day, like, I still get that feeling of, being in the booth when there's other people in the room. And, like, I have to close the curtains, turn the lights off. I don't like to see everybody staring at me, which is pretty funny because I love performing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so tell me where your name came from. So we know you as Dylan, but Dyli's your performer name. So where did that come from? So
my sister, her name is Callan, and everybody calls her Callie. So my family, growing up, I don't really know how it came to be, but they just started calling me Dyli. And so when I went to start working in the studio, we were like, oh, not just Dylan, like, let's have a cool artist name. Like, what do you want to be?
Right.
So I was talking about it with my family, and they were like, Dyli, like, we've called you that your whole life. People already know. People, like, my friends called me Dyli too. So now I'm Dyli.
Yeah, and that's, it's always kind of interesting to hear those stories because sometimes it's, that process of how long, it seemed like it didn't take that long for you to figure that out, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, it was kind of like it felt like super meant to be. Like the first thought that we all had was like, oh, Dyli. And it's funny because, before I started my music career, only my closest friends called me Dyli. Only my family called me Dyli. And now it's completely changed. And everybody knows me as Dyli.
Yeah.
And my closest friends and family call me Dylan. So it's funny. Like,
that's cool though, right? How do you feel about that? Like, how does it feel like that everybody knows, that? Because I feel like that's like not like a just kind of a nickname for family, and that doesn't really get out. But now the whole world knows you as this. So how does that kind of feel? It's
pretty funny. I feel like I've gotten used to it now. But in the beginning, it was super weird because I went from Dylan, and now everybody's calling me what my family calls me. So yeah. But now it's funny. Like I said, it kind of flips. So now usually my family calls me Dylan or Dill. Yeah. Not really Dyli too much anymore.
Yeah. Did you have any names when you were coming up, Dustin? What did your family call you? Did they call you Dustin?
Yeah, but I don't really want to.
Okay. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Now you gotta say
the name I absolutely hate when people call me is Dusty.
Oh, okay.
Really?
I just can't stand it. Like, I don't know why, but like only a certain amount of people get to call me that.
Yeah. I guess some of the special ones.
Yeah. One of my uncles used to call me, what was it? There was a movie with this one monkey. I forget. Durston? Whatever.
Durston?
Chexon or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dunstan.
Dunstan, yeah.
Yeah, it's a movie. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I remember that movie.
And then what else is there? Oh, there's another one, but that one doesn't really matter. And then now Details, because apparently I know everything.
It's in the details. He knows everything.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So one of the
how about you, Ben, real quick?
Oh, yeah, you're going to put me on the spot?
I'm going to put you on the blast.
You know what it is.
I know.
So my mom called me Benji when I was growing up. So, yeah, I always got the references like Benji the
Good Charlotte
dog.
reference, too.
So she added an E after it. So when I was growing up, it was like J-I-E, like to differentiate from the dog.
Were you
Even
good
though
Charlotte?
the dog was good, right? He was a popular dog.
Were you a good Charlotte fan, too?
No.
Benji man?
No.
Okay, never mind.
I wasn't.
There goes that reference.
I know. So one of the things we have when people come on the show is we kind of want to ask them their thoughts about an entrepreneur. What do you think? What first comes to your mind when you think about an entrepreneur, and why is that important? Do you think in the community?
Entrepreneurs, I feel like they do so much. An entrepreneur to me is somebody who has a dream and they have something they want, and they'll just, take risks and do what they need to do to get that. And in communities, I feel like entrepreneurs set the bar, set standards, set platforms for their community, because without entrepreneurs, what do we have? Right. We just have a bunch of people, so entrepreneurs, they're they're super important. And I have, many entrepreneurs in my family. My dad, my parents, they own 2 businesses in Lodi, and, that helps me be an entrepreneur, that, that helps support my music career. So, I feel like it all trickles down, and it all, it fits kind of like a puzzle.
Yeah, and that must be really cool to have parents in that kind of mindset.
Yeah, definitely. They're super supportive. I can't thank them enough. Without them, I feel like, I'd still just be taking guitar lessons, wishing like, maybe one day I can do this, but it's definitely all because of them that I'm able to do what I love to do and follow my dreams.
Yeah, and of course you learned at a very early age what you want to do. Some kids don't even really figure that out, right? Whereas I'm still in college, in my 20s, trying to figure out what I wanted to do until I really figured out, my calling. But it's kind of cool to talk with people that figure it out that early. This is what I want to do. This is my passion, and this is what I want to follow. How hard do you think is that? Because, you're only 15. And I know that's a question that everybody wants to know, is how do you balance all of this stuff? You're going to high school and you're still, trying to get that work done. And I know there's probably some artists that may opt for another option for school, but you didn't.
No, yeah, that was one thing. That was my biggest thing, is that I wanted to stay in school. Because, it's such a story like, they're a musician, they dropped out of school and did this, I didn't want to do that. And it's funny because I don't like school at all.
Right.
Like, I'm not a very good school person, but, just the social part of it, I guess. And it's not easy balancing it all, but, a lot of lectures from my dad.
Right.
Definitely. He's always keeping me in check. My family's always keeping me in check. And, that helps tremendously, because there are times, I'll admit, there are times where, I kind of start to slip into my whole social world, and, like I need to get brought back. Like, you have to balance these out. You have to do both. And yeah, it can get pretty hectic sometimes, but I love it. It's always an adventure.
Yeah, because now you're growing up in this digital age where, we have so many platforms to communicate. And so this is kind of intriguing to me as such a young artist to, how do you manage all of that? Do you have a team with you? Are you very conscious about, like, you're going to type something and then, no, maybe I want to scrap it or something? Do you ever stumble
I feel
on
like that, that definitely happens. But like I said, my family, they're always keeping me in check, in my team. I have an amazing team of people, always looking out for me, planning things, like, in social media, like you said, growing up in this day and age, social media is such a big part, which I didn't realize, going into this. I never, I didn't expect it to be such a big deal, because growing up, my family's like, okay, Dylan, get off your phone. You're always on your phone, always on social media. And now they actually have to tell me, why aren't you on Insta? Why aren't you doing these things?
Post,
so it's
right?
like, it's those like, why haven't you posted today? So it's pretty funny how, it all flipped. Like, yeah, it's crazy, but like I said, my team is amazing. My family's amazing. Always making sure that, I'm in check. Yeah.
How do you have a plan kind of going in, like when you're posting, like when you obviously have so many platforms, we've seen you on Instagram. She's almost, I don't know if you know this, Dustin, but she's almost at 10,000 people.
I'm barely trying to make 300.
Yeah. Like that's incredible.
I'm still waiting to get 1,000 on Twitter.
I know.
I'm like 200 more away.
We're just trying to go for the hundreds.
I know.
And you're in the
I feel
thousands.
like Twitter's so hard to get followers on.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
I'm like,
Maybe
why do I lose?
friends.
I wake up in the morning. I'm like, why do I lose followers? Did somebody block me?
Yeah. What happened? Did I say something different?
Yeah.
I felt like I repeated the same thing I did yesterday.
I only
right?
retweet stuff. What the heck?
Yeah. I'm just, maybe I like the wrong thing. Right?
Yeah. Right.
Is that something like you run into? Like, do you have the team kind of tell you or give you advice on?
Oh
on
yeah,
those things?
definitely, all the time. Yeah, we're always planning out. Like, we actually have planned posts.
Okay.
That, like, okay, this day you're gonna do this and this. You know what I mean? So it's so much more complicated than I thought. I thought it was just going to be like, oh, social media, I'm going to post, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's like
now you have to know what filter to use.
Right.
It's crazy. It really is like that. Like, this is the theme. Like, you're going to go with pinks or blues and this filter on every picture and these emojis. Everything is so like planned out, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah,
and then of course, like, I was looking on your Instagram, like, now this must be incredible too, because you get to experience like different places and traveling and doing some photo shoots. And then I saw somebody that was, you were there getting your makeup done. So how is all of that? Like, how do you deal with all of this? Is this just kind of all surreal for you?
Yes, it's super surreal. It's insane. But I love it. I love the rush. I love the energy. And like I said before, this whole thing is such an adventure. Like, every day is something new, even if it's like planned out. There's always something new that pops up, like, oh, we're going to go do this, and we're going to go to this movie premiere and maybe talk to people there about your music. And this came up, you're going to miss school tomorrow. We have a photo shoot. Like, it's so random and it's so all over the place, Yeah. But I love it. I love that. Yeah. I love that part of it.
How have things been in school? Like, are people looking, or are they approaching you differently? Is there like a different vibe now?
I feel like since I started my music, there's always a couple of people who, I can just tell, like, that definitely I am approached differently because of it, but it's very positive energy, and I love that. I love that, people are super supportive, which honestly, I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't think people were going to be as supportive as they are, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, I looked on the site, and so you had a popular song on Spotify that really kind of picked some momentum, right? You had like over 1,000 fans.
Yeah, I had over 100,000 streams on Spotify for one of my songs.
Look at that.
And that took me by surprise, because we didn't have, a lot of push for that. We didn't really do a lot of marketing for that. That was my first EP, or at least when I was 11, I think. I think I was 11 when I did that.
11.
Yeah. And it's, looking back at it, listening to the songs, I'm like, what was I doing? Like, like, I'm 11. What am I doing?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that was super surprising to me. Still, I'm like, oh my God.
And it's still, how are things, like, are you obviously you're probably looking at those things too on Spotify, or other things that are popping up.
Yeah, Spotify is like the new it thing right now. Like,
right.
Yeah, so like we were talking about this before the show.
So here's a cool thing, and maybe you can chime in on this with us. So Dustin sends me this text this morning, and it's about the CEO for Apple, Tim Cook, and so he's talking about Spotify, and it was an interesting conversation because. The article kind of really noted on his thoughts about Spotify. Yeah. And he doesn't like it. And, of course, he's giving his own comments. It was kind of sum it up for me, Dustin.
Basically, it's something with Spotify's algorithm that it's about playlists and all this stuff that Apple is. Basically, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, said, well, you can create your own playlist or something like that. Like,
he doesn't like the idea of humans creating playlists for other humans.
Yeah.
You'd rather do something like with,
Hasn't YouTube been doing that for a while too? Playlists?
I think so. They've just had algorithms in the background that kind of like, pick what you like and kind of put a playlist together for you.
It's just the king being sour.
Right, exactly, because he's not number one. But what do you think about, that?
Honestly, I love that. I love the idea of that. That's really one of the major things that helped my song, that helped Weekend get to 100,000 streams, because it was randomly picked up on a Hollister Vibes playlist, and we got the notification. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And that's what really helped push the song, because like I said, we didn't do marketing for that. We didn't do a lot of push. It was like, oh, we're just going to release this and see what happens. And because it got picked up on that helped generate the streams. So Personally, I love that. I love the idea of making
it's a grassroots kind of effort. Like somebody found your song and was like, oh, this song's good, so I should tell all my friends.
Right. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the old, like when I was growing up, it was like mixtapes, right? It was like we just put together stuff and then pass it on. And I was like, who's this? Like, and then we, you know, like I
Yeah.
think that mixtape has evolved into the playlist.
Well,
Yeah.
the other thing are like artists are like they like artists who become big time have a problem with some of these streaming sites because I get it because it's their work and some of these sites take their work without giving them good compensation.
Right.
So it makes me think like what is the future of music now because we went through the phase of record companies, now we're at the phase of streaming sites. So where do we go in like 5 or 10 years from now with music or podcasting in general?
Right.
Now with Spotify and all these other sites.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something that maybe you're probably your team or you're looking into too is the future of digital music, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think about this whole shift in everything and streaming content and everybody subscribing? You know, you have a fan page on Spotify.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, even though I've kind of, you know, obviously I grew up in this, you know, digital era, but accessing music now is so easy. So, you know, I'm, you know, wondering too, what's it going to be in 5 years? What's going to be in 10 years?
Right.
Like, yeah, that's
we don't know. I mean, one would hope that it continues to evolve and develop, right?
Yeah.
And
For the better.
And yeah, for the better. I mean, of course, you know, when I was growing up, it was a lot of piracy issues with Napster and things like
yeah.
that. Those were big issues that artists face. Do you guys ever sit down and talk about those kind of things, or those issues ever come up? Do you ever foresee like?
You know, I think we've had a couple conversations about it. Nothing that I can really recall, to be completely honest. But I don't think we've had like a real detailed conversation about that recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's still a very real issue because everything's so easily accessible nowadays. Like you guys said, you know, people don't make mixtapes for people anymore. It's playlists.
No,
like I actually had that happen to a friend. Like, oh yeah, like he made me a playlist.
Yeah.
I like, you know, it's still like it's super like thoughtful. But if somebody made me a mixtape, like, oh my gosh, like that would be
There
be
you
great.
go.
Still,
Yeah, that takes-
still make
Alright.
mixtapes. People
There-
learn how to do it.
Yes.
I don't know how to do it, but
Yeah.
I barely figured it out a
learn.
year ago how to make how somebody made a mixtape. I'm like, wow, that's a big process. Like, I don't know if I
It is
could
a
do
lot.
that.
You know, my mom used to do it a lot. You know, with the cassette tape and deck and everything, and she just was, oh god, it was a lot of work. Like she was there for hours sitting in front of that.
Like when I made a CD one time, I was like, dang, this is like a long process.
who's burning a CD?
Yeah.
Well, now I feel like that's kind of, you know, we have CDs, but that's,
Yeah.
you know, with all the streaming content that's out there with Pandora and
I know.
Spotify.
Yeah,
in
like
the lead.
I'm making a Spotify playlist right now for soccer season for Delta, and I'm
Well, there
like,
you
oh,
go.
this is taking a long
Yeah.
process.
You know, my sister, she's 12 and she's a musician also. She's been in the studio and she had a new song come out recently. And you know, when I released my EP, when I was her age, we did I had CDs, you know, to give out
Yeah.
to people like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, check this out. And she had download cards and
What? A download card?
download
Wow.
cards, and they're these super cute like bracelets, and they have like a USB on
Wow.
it, so you can
Okay.
plug it into your computer and
Oh,
download
that's kind
it.
of cool. That's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it's super cool, but like, you know, but like I said, even though I've grown up in this
Yeah.
era too, when I did, I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, CDs, you know,
Yeah.
and then now it's like, here are these free download cards, like
Yeah.
check it out.
Here's this USB.
Yeah, here's this USB bracelet.
That's totally different. That'd be weird for me, like to go to a concert and then just like, oh, here's a USB of my work. Oh, I don't know. I'm just so used to the
Personally,
CD.
I would rather I'd prefer a CD. Even
Yeah.
I love vinyls too. I have a record player in my room, and my grandpa, he had tons of records, and after he passed, I was like, I didn't know that he had these records, and I was like, oh my gosh, so he really put me on with those.
Yeah.
And so then I got a record player in my room, and now I have a bunch of old records, new records. I love vinyls.
Yeah,
And then
vinyl's in right now.
Yeah, I know they came back, right?
Yeah.
What do they say? What's old is
new
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Definitely.
Tower Records one day again.
One day, one day again, right? Now you talk about your sister, and I think this is really cool, and I'm sure you know a lot of people know about this, but let the audience know that she's really kind of a integral part of this process too.
Definitely.
When you guys are writing, right?
Oh my gosh, I don't know what I would do without her. Like, seriously, she helps write, she helps harmonize, she helps vocal produce me. She's so amazing. Like, you know, I don't know how she does it, having to deal with this, because, you know, when I was 11, you know, she was still in the studio. She was 8. She was still in the studio. She was still supporting me. You know, if I like, okay, this is really overwhelming right now, blah, blah, she'd come in and sit down and like talk to me like, okay, it's going to be okay. You know, you just got to do it. Like, you know, and she's 3 years younger than me, but she's such an intricate part in, you know, she plays such a huge role in my life, not just my music career, even, you know, things like, oh, this happened with a friend or whatever, you know, she's always that person who's like, hey, I'm here for you, buddy.
Right.
So,
yeah. That's the person that you're going to go to. And I just think that's great to have somebody like, you know, that's a family member that's that close.
Sounding
to be
board.
a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I saw the music. I don't know if you watched any of the music videos.
Yeah, I did. A
You
little
did?
bit, yeah.
Which one did you watch?
What was it?
I've seen the one with you and your sister, and that was at Weber Point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was cool.
that was cool. They were doing a reggae festival, I believe it. They were doing a music festival, and they were like, "Hey, you want to come out and perform?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come out and perform, of course." Like right at Weber Point, you know, really in the heart. And yeah, it was super cool. We ended up shooting a music video there. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't like planned, like right when they called it, but like before we went, you know, my dad, he was like, "Oh, why don't we just shoot the music video for your song here?" And I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So that turned out super cool.
So you got to perform in front of how many people for that?
It wasn't the turnout that they expected.
Oh, okay.
It was still pretty dope though. There were some people there, and I had performed earlier in the day. There were some people there, you know, there was a lot of food. But a ton of my family came out. So it was pretty cool, because I was on this stage, and you know, my sister was up there, and then I'm performing, and then it's like just looking out, you know, seeing my family. So I think it made it pretty memorable. Yeah. Like it being like that. That was one of my most memorable performances.
Yeah, I like that video. Which one did you watch?
I forget now. I don't know. I'm always busy. I'm watching stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, he's always looking at all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, always content.
And it would. Yeah, well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how long did it take you to make the music video? Because I've interviewed artists before who've made them, and they're like, it takes so long, the process, and even the people that have to edit it are like, it takes some people like days to edit, because they sit in front of the video bay or editing bay and just sit there and was like, I don't like that take, so go back, change this, fix it that way.
For sure. That video, you know, I haven't sat in on an editing session for a music video of mine, but that weekend, the video you watched in particular, that one was probably one of the easiest music videos that I shot, because they were like, okay, we'll get some behind the scenes takes, then you're gonna play it in this spot, and then I'm gonna record you performing.
Right.
You know, so that was pretty cool.
It
didn't take too long.
It had a very documentary kind of feel to
yeah, that's
it, right?
definitely the vibe that we were going for. And my most recent music video that I shot for my single coming out on Friday, that one took I don't know, I think it took almost 5-ish hours, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, I was not paying attention to the time, because you know, the whole time it was super crazy. It was like, this is my first like real music video.
Right.
In between takes, like, okay, makeup, you know, I had to go fix my makeup and then change my outfit, and it was so fun. But yeah, that one took pretty long, but I loved it. It was definitely one of my favorite things that I've done.
Where
so
did they
far.
shoot that one?
We shot it at the Ragdoll Pink Palace in LA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's super cool, super dope spot. This lady, she told us a story, actually, and it's pretty cool. She's an artist, and she had this character that she drew. And when she moved into her new apartment, she had always imagined this like place for the character to live. So she was like, well, I'm gonna make it this place. So all the walls are painted pink, tons of vintage, like, it's super cool. And then there's just, you know, pictures like of the character on the wall, and there's one wall and it's covered in wallpaper and pink flowers and everything. Everything is pink. And yeah, she did it all for this character that she had, and it's super cool. Like, it's so dope. So we contacted her, and she has her own website, and she was like, yeah, feel free to come shoot a music video here. And we were like, yeah,
that's cool.
Definitely do that. And it really worked with the theme of the song, I feel like, because Cherry Coke.
Yeah, that's right.
know?
So Cherry Coke, we have that.
Speaking of the song, nice segue.
Yeah.
You want to segue?
You should play it, right?
Yeah. Want to introduce the song, though, real quick, Dylan?
Yeah.
Yeah, this song is my single coming out on Friday. It's called Cherry Coke.
Red lights, but we go. We make long nights for the old people. We're the cool people. Now we're sitting by the pool, sipping cherry Coca-Cola. That's what lovers do, but will I want you when I'm sober? You know how it gets when the sugar hits your body, racing through my mind like a brand new Maserati. Plastic cups on the nightstand. Now you're messing up my night dance. I don't wanna stay, I don't wanna go, I don't wanna, I don't wanna love it, I don't wanna fight it, I don't wanna. Will I see you tomorrow? Will you love me tomorrow? No, I'm tired of dripping over you. I don't wanna see it through. Even if I'm over you, I'm still tripping over you. And I don't wanna lose. Now we're sitting by the pool, sipping cherry Coca-Cola. That's what lovers do, but will I want you when I'm sober? You know how it gets when the sugar hits your body, racing through my mind like a brand new Maserati. Plastic cups on the nightstand. Now you're messing up my night plans. Plastic cups on the nightstand. Now you're messing up my night plans. Now we're sitting in our rooms, drinking rotten cherry cola, thinking about the times when we never let them own us. Yeah, we're all alone, but the feeling isn't over. We will never grow, 'cause our minds are never sober. Plastic cups on the nightstand. Now you're messing up my night plans. Plastic cups on the nightstand. Now you're messing up my night plans.
Wow. That was kind of cool.
Thank you.
That was like a very like kind of lo-fi kind
Yeah.
of.
What is your inspiration?
Yeah.
Like, who do you look up to, or like, what kind of musical styles do you like?
You know, that's always such a hard question for me to answer because I love music, all types of music, you know, from R&B to hip hop to folk and, you know, jazz. So I'm always listening to different music, but definitely right now, anybody in the R&B category that's my go-to genre. So that's my go-to style of music.
Who made that beat, by the way?
My producer.
Nice.
Yeah, his name is Sean Chapman. He's freaking amazing. You
Yeah,
know,
that was
always-
good. I like that.
As somebody who knows DJs and like knows people that make beats, that was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
I love that. That it's funny, you know, I was actually down in LA and I don't know what we were doing at the time. I think we might have been re-recording another song. And he played this beat, and he was like, oh, I'm going to send this to you. You should write something to it. And I was like, for sure, you know, super casual. Then I got home, and he had sent me the beat, and I was listening to it, and I was like, I was sitting by the pool. And I was like, okay. So I started with the chorus, and I was just sitting there, and I just wrote the song, you know, and I was like, okay, like this, you know, this is the one that needs to happen. You know?
And that's the process.
I always find that funny when musicians are like, I'm a big Eagles fan, so I've watched the documentary so many times. But like when Don Felder says, "Hey, I wrote that guitar riff in like 5 seconds when I was sitting on the beach in Malibu at my like a house I was renting," I'm like. Then somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I did the vocals in like 2 minutes."
Right. Yeah. And it feels like it's just once you heard it, like you knew already. Like I've got it down. I got the chorus right away. You know?
And that's definitely how it goes. There's some days where we'll have writing sessions, and I'll spend 7 hours trying to figure out the chorus.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? You know.
Well, it's a kind of maybe and this is kind of cool as for a writer myself. Like you know. Every writer's process is different, and songwriting is always interesting to me because my friend and his wife, you know, he does hip hop and she does the chorus
which
and
is
R&B,
the intro to your show.
Which is the intro to my show, and so I've seen their writing process, but kind of break down like what a writing session is like for you.
Writing sessions are they're my favorite part in, you know, composing a song because I'm always writing. So typically when we have a writing session, you know, my producer, he'll be at his laptop or he'll be at his computer building a beat. And then I like to take my shoes off and sit on the floor. It's really weird. I always, you know, I don't like to sit on a chair. I just like take my shoes off, sit on the floor, get really comfortable. And that's when, you know, the creativity starts flowing. And then usually I'll hear a melody for the chorus. Sometimes, you know, he'll have this is my chorus idea, this is the melody, and then I'll just put lyrics to that, and then we'll build the verses, you know. It's super different, but all the time it changes up, but that's definitely, you know, the thing that stays the same, me sitting on the floor without my shoes on, writing my songs.
Like, when I edit audio sometimes, I do it for fun, but, like, when I do it, I'm like, set my laptop, I'm like, people are like, how long did that take you? I'm like, it took me 5 seconds to edit audio. I'm like, oh. It comes easy because I can read audio waves. It's not that hard. Yeah, and put stuff together. Yeah.
It just and for me, it's kind of different. You know, it's different. Like I like to go, you know, to different places. I feel like I can never get work done at home, but like when I'm out at different places, like a coffee shops or something.
Yeah,
like,
I can't be at home to do work.
There's something that happens.
I can relate.
There's a conversation, or there's like something that just happens, or the magic in there, and then you can just start writing. You know, filling out the blank pages.
I can definitely relate with that. We've written a couple of songs at my house. We've had a couple of writing sessions, and those are always the ones where I'm like my producer will be like, "Hey, I'm going to get something to eat," and I'm like sitting in there like, think of something, but I can't, you know. But in the studio is my favorite place to write. Preferably, we work in Nightbird Studios at Sunset Marquee in Hollywood a lot, and that's my favorite place to work because there's no windows.
Oh, okay.
It's like in the. I don't know. It's like in the basement, kind of. It sounds like super weird describing it, but it's super dope. There's only three different studio rooms. I think there's 3 or 4, and you know, we'll just go in there and he'll sit at the computer, and the room's super big. And then there, I'll actually go into the booth. Like after I hear the chorus part, you know, he's still building it, so I'll go into the booth and I'll sit on the floor, and then I'll just write, and then I'll come out and be like, hey, like this is like. Do we like this, you know? Yeah, that's definitely my favorite place to work.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some different place for every artist, but yeah, that sounds really cool. And then, of course, I was talking with your dad a little bit about, you know, just kind of, you know, mapping out like performance stuff. So tell me about like performing live. Like how does that experience feel like in front of people? I know you've performed in front of family for that music video, but you know, the feeling of going out and maybe actually I don't really, because I don't know how much you've performed over the past several years, but performing locally? Like, how do you feel about performing like in the community?
I love performing locally. I love, especially like talking about those performances with people who aren't local, and I'm like, yeah, 209, like I love performing in town. But it's really great when I can get up on stage, and I love talking to the audience. Almost as much as I like singing my own songs to them. I love talking to the audience, asking how everybody's doing. And my 2 best friends, they're always at my shows. And I like to keep it really casual on stage, because I know that once I get like, okay, this needs to be really serious, then, it kind of throws me off. So I'll like have direct conversations with people I know in the audience, or like look at some and be like, hey, like, how are you, you know? But especially, performing in town, performing locally, plug in the 209, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah. And
since coming to KXVS, I'm like, every local artist knows each other, basically.
Right.
Yeah, like, I'm like, oh, you know this person? Yeah, I know this person. Like, I perform with this person. I'm like, oh, wow, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, I know that, and I feel like that's always the case, right? You know, with we've seen a lot of artists come through here, and
especially the
perform.
station now.
Like and Jordan's kind of that way too.
Jordan Waters down in Modesto, that scene.
He kind of when I've seen him perform, it's very similar to how you're describing your performance. Is that in between songs, he likes to just have a conversation with the people. How are you guys doing? Or and then maybe he'll fill in something like if he knows like what he's going to perform, he'll kind of give maybe an insight on what it is. That's
another thing I love: backstories to my songs. My songs, when I write them, I always, try to correlate them. They're always inspired by something that's going on in my life or that I see, so being able to give a backstory on a song, to kind of let people know, like, this is what this is about for me, that's everything to me.
Right.
But also, when I write my lyrics, speaking metaphorically for things, not saying them directly, that's also a huge part of it, because I like for people... I want for people to, when they hear my music, they can relate it to something that's going on in their life. So if I'm performing on stage, I'm like, yeah, this is inspired by this, and somebody else hears and they're like, oh, well, this reminds me of a time when this happened. Being able to relate to music is it makes me love a song so much more. So I tried to allow people to relate to my music as well. Yeah.
And that was something that I thought about too, as an artist. I'm sure you're always thinking about the messaging and the influences and how you're...
The relevance of it too now. Like, once like one certain song like drops, it becomes a hit because of a certain subject it's talking about.
Yeah. And do you have people that come up to you and like they'll tell you, this song that you did, or that one really got me because of something very specific in there?
Yeah, occasionally I have had that, and that makes my day. It makes me feel so good, because like I said, that's my goal, for people to be able to listen to this and be like, man, that relates, and this helps with this or whatever, And so I have had that occasionally, where someone has told me, hey, this song touched me or whatever, can't beat that feeling.
Yeah, I know. That's probably like the best. Like, and actually, so out of all the songs that you've written, which one stands out to you the most? Which one is the one that you always go back to and like, I really like, this is the one I'm proud of. This is the one I really put a lot of effort into.
I feel like every time I write a new song, the goal is to beat the last one.
Right.
Meanings wise, there are 2 songs, Cherry Coke. And Low Key, which is another single. That's my next single I'm going to have coming out in a couple months from now, after Cherry Coke.
Okay.
And Cherry Coke is actually inspired by what I see socially, like, when I'm walking through campus at school, and the way I view my generation, the way we operate. And it just correlates in the end to the fact that everybody wants to be somebody. And the way that I see my generation operate a lot of times is, so petty and so, like, stepping on everybody to keep your reputation or to keep, this is how I want people to view me.
Right.
And so, now we're sitting by the pool sipping cherry Coca-Cola. To me, that's like, I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to live in my own world and live lavishly, And this is, kind of the king of my own world right now. So that song definitely means a lot to me.
Yeah, no, you can tell when you listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard artists, one of them's like John Mayer before. Somebody was asking him, he was on an interview with some a famous radio show, and they were like, what song do you hate playing? And he's like, I can't stand waiting on the world to change because I can't hit those notes anymore. So it's perfection-wise, I can't make it like I did when that recording came out. So is there a song like that you have on your repertoire yet? Or do you even do covers you like that you're like, man, I wish I could do it
covers. That's
a little different.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love covers. I love performing covers. And one of the most irritating things for me is wanting to play a cover and not being able to. I'm like, okay, I need to change this. Like, I can't hit that note. I can't do this. But there are a couple of my own songs that I'm like, okay, we need to change something here because I can't perform this live. You know, it can't always sound like the studio, especially in an acoustic set. My last show, in the middle of the set, I had just finished a song and I was about to go into my next song, and I turned around and I was like, I told my guitar player and my sister, she was doing backups for me, I was like, okay, we're going to skip this song. Because I started doubting myself. And once I doubt myself, I'm like, okay, now I can't do that. So, nobody kind of knew that at the time. But, now there's just sometimes that I'm like, okay, I can't sing this song right now.
Yeah, then there's like those covers if you do change it and people are like, oh, I do like that, like different kind of style of cover-wise.
Yeah.
And there's a big person out there right now called Boyce Avenue who does covers. He's from Australia, and he's grown bigger because he's just grown a reputation around doing the best covers. But it's like, oh, you can make it into your own style.
Right. Yeah. Is there a cover like you'd really want to do? Is there a song that you've thought about that was like, I'd really like to try that at some point, down the road?
I feel like, not off the top of my head, every time I hear a song that I like, I'm like, oh, I want to do that song, But, going back to what you said, taking a cover and making it your own, that's, I love doing that. I have a song that I play, it's called Suffer by Charlie Puth. And his vocal range, his voice is amazing. And the runs that he does, the trills, I can't do those. But I was like, I really like this song. So I took it and I changed it up and made it my own. And now that's one of my favorite songs to perform.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I love doing covers by male artists.
Okay.
Because it's harder to compare. If I do a female, oh, yeah, she sounds like that. You know what I mean? I don't like that when people compare me.
Yeah. That's definitely something you're going to run into.
Yeah,
I would
for
think
sure.
all the time. If there was somebody, I'm sure you must get this all the time, but I always like to ask it anyway, is if there was an artist out there that you could work with or a producer, who would it be? Like,
I've thought about this so much. Like, the answer to this question. Depending on the genre, I think I would love to work with Khalid. Because he's one of my favorite artists right now, and he's super in the mix, and I love his voice. I love to work with Khalid. But another person who is kind of funny, I'd love to work with Kendrick Lamar also, because he is so amazing lyrically. The way he portrays himself, watching his interviews, I'm like, gosh, he's so amazing. So I'd love to be able to, at least write with him.
Yeah.
And if this was like 10 years ago, somebody would say Timberland.
Yeah.
What? Hey, he had big hits.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Because those are always questions I think like are just, when you're just getting in and maybe those are like swirling through your mind, you're probably like maybe listing them out like, oh man, I'd really think about it, wanting to work with that person or do something like that. So we're getting close to kind of wrapping up. Where can everybody find all your stuff? Obviously you're on Spotify.
So I'm on Spotify. I have music on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, basically anywhere you can get music. I'm on, so you guys can definitely check that out. It's Dyli, Dyli. And don't forget, I have a new single coming out, Cherry Coke. That drops on Friday. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, and you heard it here.
Yeah,
on
you
KXVS.
heard it here, first
time premiere.
Exclusives.
Yeah,
that was cool. Now that's in rotation.
And if you miss it, you can always go back and check it on YouTube, and we're on Facebook.
Yeah.
So Dyli, Dyli, music.
Oh yeah, and my website.
Yeah, your music.
Sorry to cut you off.
No. I wanted to make sure that everybody can go, because there's actually a couple songs they can listen to, right?
Yeah, on my website, like you said, DyliMusic.com, and that has my songs and links to all my socials, everything. I'm gonna be doing Musically account also when Cherry Coke comes out, so. Cherry Coke challenge on Musically. We're going to make that happen. So, yeah, there's just a ton of stuff happening. All the links to everything that I've done are on my website. So, yeah, that's...
So, what's next for Dyli?
After the release for this song, who knows?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to have another single coming out very soon, and hopefully a mini album at the end of this year, which is what we're working towards. So, yeah, those are the next big plans, and anything that happens in between, all the spontaneous moments. Yeah.
The real question is, are you a fan of Cherry Coke?
Am I a fan of Cherry Coke?
To be continued, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. It was really awesome to kind of hear your story and kind of learn about all of that, and we really we're excited for you to come on and be a part of it, and we're obviously always huge supporters of local, so it's great to hear that you're out there and with all this amazing success already.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I mean, this is amazing. Our first radio show right in the 209.
Right in the 209. So when your schedule slows down, we'd love to have you come back and talk more about what you have planned.
For sure.
Yeah. So don't forget, you can catch her on her website, DyliMusic.com, and then of course you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, Twitter, you're everywhere.
Yes, everything at Dyli, DYLI, Dyli Official for Twitter. So yeah.
All right, Dustin.
Okay.
It was good to see you.
Good to see you. I'll see you on Friday, I guess.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
You've been listening to Challenge Mode on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. For more information on the voice Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org from the KXVS studios on the Miracle Mile. Goodbye.
Problems in the backstage of the show, though. Each frame we produce, bulletproof to the truth. I used to feel so worthless.
Hello, everyone. This is Pedro Avila, founder of Roadfinch, and you're listening to Challenge Mode on KXVS, the voice of Stockton.